The hospital have called with an appointment date, but is it for IV chemo treatment or is it just another consult? Will I really be taking chemo tablets as well? And if so, why has the plan changed? Who changed it? Should I arrive 2 hours before the appointment for a blood test, like they told me before? Why can't I get through to the right person at the hospital? And who is the Completo woman? What? Come this way, through the curtain of blurred colons, and find out what's going on in my cancer story. Welcome to the Tumour-tastic
Video Diary number 23.
Hi, Scats here.
They know who you are.
It's Friday, May the 24th, and this is Video Diary number 23. So, the hospital called at last. Yay! And they gave me an appointment day. Yay! And it's next Thursday. Yay! And was it for treatment or for another consult? Yay! I asked the person who called whether I need to go to the hospital next door for a blood test before the appointment, like I'd been told by the tiny doctor from Video Diary 21, remember? And the caller didn't know.
Nobody knows anything. They're just guessing.
Well, why would she know? It's always a receptionist given the task of calling to confirm appointments, and they only know what it says on their screen. Also, she said the appointment was at 10 a.m. But when I checked the appointment details on my health app after the call was finished, it said 9:30 a.m. OK, so a few things needed looking into there.
Like your pathetic brain. Are you sure I'm not in there?
I sent my mate Chris a message asking him to try calling to clear it all up. But he couldn't get through, so he said he'd try some different numbers, and if he couldn't find anyone who could answer the questions, he'd try one more time on Monday when I was meeting him to put my car through its MOT in Malaga. And if that didn't work, I could always pop over to the hospital myself while I was there and go to the oncology reception to get an answer.
They won't know. And your Spanish is crap anyway.
So, fast forward to Monday. We had a long queue at the ITV station, which gave Chris the chance to have a long queue on the phone to the hospital reception. He was 12th in the queue to start with, but gradually he got closer and closer. The tension and excitement built until we were both hysterical, almost apoplectic with discombobulatory anticipation. And finally, he was next in the queue. He took the phone off loudspeaker and put it to his ear. I could almost see the Spanish words queuing up in his mouth to fly into his phone up to the satellite and back down to the hospital, when suddenly, his face went ashen. He took the phone off his ear and looked at it in perplexed disamusement. "They've cut me off," he said. "Bollocks."
Feel the tension. Feed the Freddy.
After a few more expletives, Plan B exploded into action. Well, after my car had completed its test, that is. I said farewell to Chris and to Lara, his wife / Upsticks Drive colleague, and pootled off to the hospital. I was all ready with some relatively complicated Spanish phrases and sentences in my head when I arrived round the corner from the hospital car park. There was a queue.
Another queue. Perfect.
I thought it might just be for the traffic lights, but the lights changed a few times and nothing happened. Nothing moved at all. This was the exact opposite of the parking nightmare I'd had the last time, when I couldn't find the way out of the car park and was driving around in a Wonderland-esque dream. This time, it's still a nightmare, but a little bit more static, and I couldn't find a way in.
Feeling a bit trapped, are we?
I sat in the queue for a good 10 minutes, and we moved no more than 2 car lengths. I pulled over a little to the right to peer round the cars ahead, and saw a woman at the corner of the road holding up a sign. I couldn't read it at first, she was too far away, and as a display stand, she wasn't really doing an effective job. Her arms were lolling loosely about, making the sign too low and too wobbly to read. She wasn't really committed to the role. Eventually, I caught a glimpse of the single word on the sign. It said, Completo, which means complete. I'd only ever seen the word before on chickens in the supermarket when they were being sold whole. Complete.
You complete fecking idiot.
So I was a bit puzzled. Was she telling everyone she was a whole person? And while that's a good thing to be, why was it necessary to advertise this on a street corner and in such a lackadaisical manner? It didn't make sense. To be whole is something you should shout from the rooftops, not silently wobble unenthusiastically. Perhaps there was a different meaning I was missing. Suddenly the clouds in my brain parted and the sunshine of understanding beamed forth. She was telling everyone the car park was full. Complete. Well, that explains absolutely everything.
Except why you're a complete cockwomble.
So I asked my phone for directions to the next nearest car park and was taken around a strange and wiggly circuit of one-way streets to an underground garage where an almost incomprehensible but very smiley man pointed me to a space and took my keys. Later, it turned out he'd turned the car round so it was facing the exit. That's why he needed the keys. That's very kind of him, wasn't it? It was a very tight space.
Sounds a bit suspicious to me. Do you think he damaged your car?
Anyway, I hi-hoed my way to the hospital, which turned out to be very close, just around the corner in fact, and I found my way up to the oncology area where I'd been for the consult previously. I went to reception. There was a queue. I was beginning to sense a theme to the day. I practised my Spanish as the queue shortened, then launched into my opening question with the sort of confidence that always evokes a response that's way too fast for me to understand. Damn my Spanish teacher for making me sound so fluent.
Oh, that's what you think.
My questions drew a puzzled conversation between the two receptionists. There was nothing on the system about the pre-consult blood test or to confirm whether there would be any treatment afterwards. But eventually a decision was reached and 2 sheets of paper were printed off for me. One confirming the blood test at 8:10 in the morning of Thursday the 30th at the hospital next door, and the other confirming a consult here on the 2nd floor oncology department afterwards. I pressed for a confirmation of treatment, pointing out how important it was to know whether I would be making the long drive here or whether I'd have to arrange a lift, possibly from one person to get me there very early and another one to take me home, anything up to 7 hours later.
It's gonna be hell on a stick, a logistics nightmare.
The receptionist advised me to ask downstairs on the actual day ward where the treatment would be happening. Good idea. I thanked her profusely and headed down the long, bare, white corridor and down the scary stairs to the ward. There was a queue, but not at reception this time. I'm not sure what the queue was for. They were all sitting waiting for something. Possibly some kind of procession, because they happen a lot in Spain. They'd be carrying some kind of effigy of great significance and weight, designed to cause suffering to everybody concerned. And probably guilt. There's always guilt. It's a Catholic thing.
Bloody atheists. You'll be on your knees to God before I'm finished with you.
In the absence of a parade, I asked with happy insistence and a complete lack of guilt for confirmation, no pun intended, of treatment. Between the 2 nurses at the desk, one of whom had a little English which curled around my little Spanish to form a pattern of understanding, they came to the conclusion that a decision would be made at the consult based on the blood test. And usually the results would confirm that treatment was safe to have. So I should assume that I wouldn't be able to drive and that I'd be there for a while on the day.
Safe to have, eh? It's poison, mate. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me.
So that was about as definitive an answer as I was going to get, but at least I could make plans. One question still lingered, but it would have to wait until the consult for an answer. Originally, you see, at the first consult at the previous hospital, if you remember, a decision had been made jointly by the oncology team and the surgeon between 2 possible treatment regimes, and the second option had been chosen, and that option included intravenous chemotherapy as stage 2. These treatments, it's giving me wind already. These treatments would be 21 days apart, and there would be 6 of them. No mention of tablets in this stage of treatment. However, At my more recent consult at this hospital, I was told that a week after each IV treatment, I'd have to come back to take chemo tablets.
Someone's hiding something from you.
My question is this: why has the plan changed? When was it changed? And who changed it? That's 3 questions. There hasn't been a scan or even a recent blood test, not since before the end of the chemotherapy. So what's going on? That's 4 questions. I should really have asked the tiny doctor better questions a couple of weeks ago. I don't know whether she would have had a satisfactory answer, but I know Liz would have questioned it.
Something's going wrong. Can you feel it? Can you feel me?
As my darling wife will confirm, I do have a habit of not digging deep enough with questions and not remembering what to ask, so it's not a surprise I'm not replete with all of the answers. Also, it's not a surprise that Liz is going to be there next week to make absolutely sure we have all of the answers this time. We need to know whether there's been a communication breakdown between the 2 hospitals, or whether tests have revealed something to make extra treatment necessary. That's a bit scary. Either way, we need to know.
There may be trouble ahead.
So, next Thursday is almost certainly the beginning of stage 2, when they'll inject me with a cocktail of very serious toxic chemicals that potentially will make me feel bloody awful. Something to look forward to, eh? I have to say that this interim period has been quite a mixture of, well, an enjoyable rest on the one hand and a frustratingly uncertain wait on the other. There have been times when I've totally forgotten I've got cancer. Yeah, just saying I've got cancer now seems a bit unreal, even though I've been talking about it a lot. Some of the time I feel, well, normal. Then I get a stabbing reminder of Freddy the Bastard when I'm bending over, or when one of the dogs playfully leaps onto my stomach, and a sharp pain brings me back to this totally unreal situation. Or should I say totally real? It's going to feel more real next week, I dare say. Well, bring it on. Let battle commence.
You think you're hard, don't you? Well, let me tell you something, sunshine. You are nothing.
Well, that's all for this week. Next week I'll have something else to say, and possibly to sing too. Send me some more random words. I didn't do a song this week. I haven't done it yet, and I've got some words for that. I better do it now. I'll start it now. I promise. It'll be there one day. Tune in next Friday for another thrilling episode of Feck Off, Freddy.
You toe rag.
Keep your fingers and your toes crossed, you lovely people, and as always, raise your drinking receptacle with me.
I am still very much alive.
And of course, let's do the cancer dance.